Around 3,300 years ago, a pharaoh looked at the gods his people had worshipped for 2,000 years and decided almost all of them had to go. He was one of the most powerful men on earth, and when he died, the country he had ruled did something it almost never did to a king. It tried to erase him. They chipped his name off the stone. They left him off the official list of kings. In later records, they refused to even say his name and called him only the enemy or the criminal of that city. For roughly 3,000 years, it almost worked. The world forgot he had ever existed. His name was Akhenaten, and the only reason we can tell you his story is that the erasure was not quite complete. To understand why Egypt wanted him gone, you have to start with how strange what he did really was. He was not born a revolutionary, and he was not born with that name. He began as Amenhotep IV, a younger son of Amenhotep III and Queen Tiye, near the height of Egypt's power and wealth. Egypt at that moment was a land of many gods, hundreds of them, and at the top sat Amun, whose priesthood at Thebes had grown enormously rich and powerful. For the first years of his reign, the young king looked ordinary enough. Then somewhere around his 5th year on the throne, everything changed. He announced that one God stood above all others. Not a hidden creator, not a distant force, but something everyone could see every single day. The Aten, the visible disk of the sun. In the new art, the Aten was shown as a disk in the sky, its rays reaching down as long thin arms, each ending in a tiny human hand, offering the sign of life to the royal family. And the king changed his own name to match. He stopped being Amenhotep, which honored Amun, and became Akhenaten. The name is usually translated as something close to one who is effective for the Aten. Now, you will often hear that this made him the world's first monotheist, the first person in history to worship a single god. It is a powerful idea. It is also where we have to slow down and be careful. Most Egyptologists today are cautious about the word monotheism. What Akhenaten built looks less like a faith with one god and no others, and more like the worship of one god raised far above the rest, with the king himself as the only path to him. Scholars often call that monolatry, rather than monotheism. It is a real distinction, and the honest answer is that we are still arguing about exactly what he believed. What is not in doubt is how far he was willing to go. This was not a gentle reform. He redirected the wealth of the old temples toward the Aten. In places he had the name of Amun chiseled out of the stone, even where it appeared inside other people's names. In some inscriptions, even the plural word for gods was attacked. Think about what that means. He was not just promoting a new god. He was reaching back into monuments that were already ancient in his own time, and trying to scrub the old ones out. Remember that. The man who was later erased had first tried to erase everyone else, and he did not want to do it in the old holy city. So he built himself a brand new capital, on empty desert ground that belonged to no god at all. He called it Akhetaten, the horizon of the Aten. Today we call the place Amarna. On land where no city had stood, a whole capital rose in just a few years, with palaces, temples open to the sky, and homes for thousands of people. He marked its edges with great boundary stones, carved with vows that he would never let the city move beyond them. And at his side through all of it, stood one of the most famous faces in human history, even though for a long time no one knew whose face it was. His queen, Nefertiti. In the art of Amarna, she appears again and again, not hidden behind the king but beside him, sometimes shown at the same scale, sometimes even in poses that had belonged only to pharaohs before. The image most people know is a painted limestone bust, a long neck, a calm face, one eye left unfinished. It was found in 1912, in the ruins of a sculptor's workshop at Amarna, by a German team led by Ludwig Borchardt. It had been sitting in the sand for over 3,000 years. Today, it is one of the most visited objects in any museum in the world. The art of this period broke almost every rule. For thousands of years, Egyptian kings had been shown as perfect, ageless, and stiff. Akhenaten let himself be carved with a long face, a thin neck, a soft belly, and wide hips. in a style so unusual that early scholars wondered if he had some illness. Most experts now think the strange look was a deliberate style, a religious choice, not a medical portrait. But like so much here, we cannot be completely sure. And there were tender scenes no earlier pharaoh had allowed. The king and queen with their small daughters on their laps. The sun's rays reaching down over the whole family. Warmth in stone. From the outside, it can look almost beautiful. A king, a queen, one god, a shining new city in the sun. But it was built on a fault line, and when the king died, it cracked almost at once. Akhenaten ruled for about 17 years. When he died, roughly 1300 years before the Common Era, the revolution had no deep roots. The old priesthoods had been sidelined, not destroyed. The wider countries had never really let go of its many gods, and the new religion had leaned almost entirely on one man. Remove him, and it had almost nothing left to stand on. Within a few short years, it all came undone. The throne soon passed to a boy, a young son who had been born with a name that honored the Aten, Tutankhamun, and that boy, or the advisors around him, reversed everything. He changed his own name to one you know far better, Tutankhamun, honoring Amun once again. The court left the desert city. The old temples were reopened and refunded. The many gods came back, and Akhetaten, the horizon of the Aten, was slowly abandoned to the sand. That could have been the end of it. A failed experiment quietly buried. But Egypt's rulers did not stop at moving on. A generation later, kings like Horemheb and the Ramesside pharaohs who followed set out to remove Akhenaten from the record on purpose. They tore down the buildings of Amarna and used the stones as cheap fill inside their own monuments. Thousands of his carved blocks were hidden face down inside later walls. Ironically, that is part of why so much survived. Buried inside newer walls, protected from the weather, his sun temples waited in the dark for archaeologists to find them. And on the official lists of kings, the ones later pharaohs carved to show their proper line of succession, something is missing. On the famous king list at Abydos, the record jumped straight from Amenhotep III to Horemheb, as if the years in between, the years of Akhenaten and the boy king and their immediate successors, simply never happened. In the few later texts that mention him at all, he is not given his name. He is that enemy, that fallen one, the criminal of Akhetaten. This is one of the clearest cases we have of a pharaoh being deliberately unmade. Not lost by accident, removed on purpose, and it very nearly held. For most of the next 3,000 years, Akhenaten was simply gone from the story Egypt told about itself. He came back almost by accident. In the 1800s, villagers at Amarna found clay tablets covered in a strange script. They turned out to be a royal archive, letters in cuneiform, between Egypt and the great powers of the age, from the reigns of Akhenaten and his father. Excavators followed. They uncovered the buried city, the smashed statues, the reused blocks, and slowly pieced a forgotten king back together from the very rubble meant to hide him. There is even a mystery about his body. In a small tomb in the Valley of the Kings, catalogued as KV55, lay a battered set of remains whose own name had been torn from the coffin. A DNA study published in 2010 argued that this man was a son of Amenhotep III and the father of Tutankhamun, which points strongly toward Akhenaten. But scholars still argue about the bones, especially how old the man was when he died, so even this we cannot call certain. And then, there's the myth that grew up around him in our own time. A little over a century ago, the historian James Henry Breasted called Akhenaten the first individual in human history, and painted him as a lonely prophet of one god. Later, Sigmund Freud built a whole theory linking Akhenaten's religion to the origins of Hebrew monotheism. But it is worth being honest here. Those are modern ideas, laid on top of him long after the fact. There is no solid evidence for the Freud connection, and even the word prophet says more about us than about him. The real Akhenaten remains harder to read. What we can say is this: a king once tried to erase Egypt's gods. In return, Egypt tried to erase the king. And here is the final turn. The erasure failed, because we did not just recover his name. We made him one of the most famous pharaohs who ever lived, more talked about today than almost any king who followed the rules. The man they worked so hard to forget is remembered precisely because they tried. True stories, known or not.